and welcome to the Fiber Tales podcast. My name is Lærke, and this is a podcast about knitting, about knitwear design, and about my life in general. I'm coming to you from the southern part of Fyn in Denmark, where I live with my partner and our two small children. And today is the 2nd of December, so happy December, everyone. I'm getting finally a bit in the Christmas mood. I put up a few lights today, and I went into the forest and picked some branches off the ground. So the forest where I live, it's used for foresting, so there's always some leftovers on the ground that you can be lucky to find. So I picked up just a few branches. I like to keep my Christmas decorations very simple, so minimalistic, and I also don't start too early, as I feel like I get sick of Christmas if I begin already in November. So I slowly started today putting up a few things, and it also helps a bit with the mood because it's been quite gloomy and very gloomy, to be honest, these days. And I also hope because of that you can still see me well enough. It is a little bit difficult to record these days because of the light. So it's actually midday and it is already getting dark. So yeah, this is the joys of living in a Scandinavian country. It is getting dark quite early in the winter, but yeah, I have a lot to share with you today. I have very big news, as you will tell from the title, but I think I will save those until the end because they're personal stuff, so I don't want to talk about personal stuff for too long in the beginning. If you're here for knitting content, it's a little bit easier to wait until the end, like stop if you don't want to listen to anything more personal. But I also have some interesting knitwear to share with you and to talk about. So since the last time I recorded an episode, I have released the Wilderness sweater that I'm wearing today. It's a very nice lightweight sweater, very simple shaping, and it has this textured yoke that you can see here that features a lot of different stitches. I think I talked about it last time, but I will just repeat myself a little bit, so in case you already listened to it, I'm sorry, but I'm very proud of this design and very excited to have it out there in the world. It took some time. I wanted to have it out in the spring, but then didn't manage before summer came along, and then I decided to wait. But it's finally out now for the fall. And so as you can see, it has a few details that I think are very nice. It has a rolled hem, so you do a one by one ribbing, and then underneath there's this little, I don't know what to call it, little sausage that I think creates a very nice detail, and it also helps to make the neckband a little more sturdy so it doesn't stretch out too much. Then it has these little cables that are very fun to make, and if you made my Gro socks and so on, you will know this pattern. It has some wraps, so where you wrap the yarn around. It has this panel here that has herringbone stitch and little braiding, and then it repeats, and the rest of it is quite simple. So I just tucked it in, and of course you can wear it as you like. You can make it as short or as long as you prefer. There's no shaping in the body. There is shaping in the sleeves, but they're still quite straight looking. Yeah, so this is the Wilderness sweater, and Wilderness means wilderness in Danish. So I was kind of inspired by my walks in the forest, where I go through this area. Sometimes I go a little off-road, off track, and I love the feeling of being out in the little more wild nature. We don't find a lot of it here where I live. It's a little more organized, so it's really nice to experience a little more wild nature once in a while. I'm just looking at myself to check that I haven't gone too dark. I hope not. If not, I will have to try to lighten it in post. Yeah, so this one was released, and thank you so much for receiving it with a lot of love. And yeah, I also had a yarn sale. I actually think that was just after the last podcast. So I had a yarn sale of my parents' Scotland yarn, and I won't talk too much about that now. So don't worry if you're like, no, I don't want to listen to that. I want to see some knitting. But I just wanted to mention that I sold the first half of the batch, and the second half will go off a sale in January. I didn't want to put it up in December because of Christmas shopping and shipping, and it's so easy that packages get lost. So it's going up in January, and in case you missed the first one, there will be another chance. And normally the second shop update is a little more calm. Sometimes the yarn sells out quite quickly, and so just in case you were disappointed last time, normally it's a little more calm, the second shop update I have on my yarn, and that will be the last I have of that batch, and then I will have to have some more spun. And I'm still thinking about what to have spun for the next one, but more about that once I decide on, what I should have spun. Before we get into any of the knitting, I wanted to talk a bit about some yarn I got. I don't often share yarn hauls on my channel because I don't get a lot of yarn. I haven't gotten a lot lately. I used to, but then I got so much in my stash, and I've been trying to use up some of the yarn or buying more of the same that I already know that I love. But recently I came across this new to me yarn that is a Spanish brand, and well, if you know me, you know that I love anything Spanish because not only because of that, but I studied Spanish language and culture, so anything Spanish has a special place in my heart. And when I came across this yarn, it just ticked all the boxes. It's very rustic, and a local yarn made in Spain, and so made locally in Spain, not local to me. And it's just looks so delicious. So I had to get some, and I got these 2 big bags of yarn. So if you can hear some crinkling and see me reaching down, it's because the yarn is down here. And I just couldn't resist. I had to try to get some different colors and some of their different bases to see what I liked, and maybe to swatch some for designs. And I already used up almost an entire skein, so this is what I have left from a skein that I will show you what I knit with later. But this is the first one that caught my eye, and this is let's see if it will focus on the ball. There you go. It's a very natural looking yarn. I think there's a hair. My hair kind of comes out in this time of year. I have it just caught my eyes. Very rustic, very plump merino yarn. So I think all the yarns I got are merino, and this one is an organic merino. Let me show you. This is a little bit of a different colorway. So this one I showed you before is called Niebla, and this one, here you can see the label, and this one is a bit darker and more gray, and it's called Granito. And it's just a very beautiful, little bit mild, a little bit, has different colors, and it's all the natural colors of the sheep. And it's from Wooldreamers. I didn't say the name before. Wooldreamers. And this is called La Rinconada. So it's one of their bases, and it says it's 100% organic merino wool, Spanish organic merino wool. Yeah. And it's a DK weight. And I just think it's beautiful. It's a little bit sheepy still in the smell, not as much as one of the other ones I will show you. It has a little bit, you can find a little bit of plant matters in there, which I love because it means it hasn't been processed like crazy. It is, of course, non-superwash. It is very, how to explain the type of rustic yarn. It's soft to the touch, but very rustic at the same time. But because it's all merino, it doesn't have long, stable hairs. It doesn't prickle. So it's more like, I'm trying to think of a nice way to explain this. It's a little bit more like if you touch ceramic. So if you have ceramic that hasn't been glazed, if you touch in the bottom, it has this kind of sandy feeling. So this is a bit more like that. I hope that makes sense. So it's very rustic, but not in an itchy way, at least not for me. I really love this type of rustic merino yarns. So yeah, and I have 2 skeins in this colorway, so I will have to see what these can become, or maybe get some more to make a garment or something. And I also got 1 skein in a dark green, and it might be hard to tell in the dark weather we're having. But it's a very beautiful forest, mossy, dark green, again with some specks in there and very deep color. And this one is called Tierra. And yeah, it's just, I can't wait to see what I can make. I really love this kind of color. I love dark greens with a bit of a tweedy effect. I got 2 other bases from them. So this is the La Barrera, and it is 100% merino, Spanish merino, but this one I don't think is organic, at least it doesn't say. And this is in a very neutral white, creamy, soft color. I think this will be perfect for a cable jumper or something like that. I can just see it, yeah, just like a really, the kind of sweater you can wear every day, just like a very nice creamy cable sweater. I don't have a specific design in mind, but this is what it's telling me. This one is a bit more soft, and a little less rustic, but still very, yeah, it's still rustic, but not as much as the other one. And it doesn't have this tweedy effect that the other one had. So in case you are interested in getting some of them, you have an idea. So the last one I got is called Mota, and it is also a merino wool, and it is in a very brown, warm brown colorway that, if you know me, you know I love this colorway, a bit rusty, caramelly color. It reminds me of Christmas cookies, like cinnamon, no, what are they called? Cookie men? No, what is the name in English? I know, cinnamon cookie, no, gingerbread cookies, gingerbread men, this kind of color. It's like a gingerbread cookie color. And it is also very nice. Again, it's just for sampling this one. I don't know what to make with it, but I just would love to have it in my stash. And this one reminds me, this one, again, is maybe in between. So if I should say, when you think about softness, sorry, just trying to get them all here. I would say this one is the softest, then this one is in between, and then this one is more rustic and also more uneven and tweedy in the, so they have, each of them has a different feel to them. And this one, so the last one I was showing you, reminds me a bit of Terrerum Natura Gilead, Gilead, I don't know how you pronounce it, but so if you know that one, this one is more similar. Okay, so the last thing I got from them is in this bag, and it is this beautiful unspun cloud, and it is, this one is very sheepy, but in a very good way. It doesn't smell like a dirty sheep, it smells like a clean sheep. But it is a very nice unspun yarn, very, very soft and fluffy. I think this one is much softer than the Plotolopi, for example. Again, because it doesn't have long staples, it's just merino. I think it doesn't have a label on this one, and I can't remember. I ordered it some time ago, so when I made the last podcast, I had already ordered it, so it's been a while. But it's just a very soft and fluffy yarn, so I'm very happy about this one. And I have 3 skeins, and I think it could either make a beautiful shawl or a sweater. That's what I'm thinking about. And I might actually use it with a bit of some yarn I have from Høner og Ejer, the Nutiden. It could work with that as if I want to make some color work or something. So this would be a very beautiful base. And it's a very neutral gray, light gray beige-ish color. So yeah, And they were so kind to send me a bunch of their shade cards, and it's just very nice to get the cards in to get a feel for the colors. So here, for example, you can see some of the Mota colors. Was Mota? No, sorry, La Rinconada. And you can see they have very beautiful. Some are a little more vibrant, but most of them are very neutral, and I think they're just beautiful. And here you can see some of the colors they have in their unspun yarn. So for me, I'm definitely more into the neutrals here, but they have some pastel colors as well. And I got, which one is this? Does it say? I cannot see. So this is Mota, and I think all of this is Mota actually. So these are the colors from Mota, and they have a lot of colors to pick from, and they are also very beautiful. So I have some planning to do with all this yarn, and the last one is the one called Barrera, and here you can see it also has a few ones. So go check them out if you feel like. But I really feel excited to work with this yarn, and it's so nice to get some yarn that makes you excited and makes you happy to discover some new rustic yarns. And I wanted to show the thing I knit already with the Rinconada yarn, and this is what I have left in the Niebla, and here it is. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen it already. This is a little hat design that I have thought about for a while. So it is the same kind of pattern as I used on my Gro socks. So I decided this will be the Gro Hat, just to keep it in the same family. And it has these little cables, plants running up and down the hat. And I just got the last push to get it done, because on Instagram there was a knitter who knit my socks, and I think her profile is My Knitted Journal or something like that, and she knit a little bit of a modified version of my Gro socks. So in the Gro socks all the plants are the same size, and she knit each separate one a little bit longer, not every second one a little bit longer, and I really liked how that looked. So I decided to be inspired by her modification and use it in the hat. And as you can see, if I put it on, I made it quite tight fitting, because I like my hats to sit on my head and not fly off when I'm biking. I always use hats when I'm biking. Plus I have a lot of hair, and my hair tends to push the head up. So I decided to make it quite fitted, and it has a big brim that also doubles up as extra heat on the ears and around the head. And on the top it has a little bit of it's quite fitted also around the head, but just with a little bit of extra space, so it doesn't feel like it's gonna scoop off your head. So this is the Gro Hat, and I'm really happy with how it came out. I feel like I knitted this 3 times, because I did the ribbing twice, I did the flowers twice, trying out different lengths and then finding the right proportion for the top of the head, and I'm really happy with how it came out. As you can see, maybe the top here, it's a very easy way of decreasing, and it's just very rustic without being itchy, and I think it's gonna be perfect for the winter. Another reason why I made it quite snug is that my experience with hats is they grow a little bit as you wear them. It has a tubular cast on, so it's very pretty on the edge, and I continued the ribbing for a little bit extra longer, and then the rest is just stockinette until the pattern begins. So if you know how to do simple cables and tubular cast on, you can always, there are different versions you can use, then it's a quite simple knit. And also quick if you're not like me and re-knitting it, but that's part of the design process, I know. Also, one thing I find hard when designing hats is You wanted to have negative ease, and I think negative ease is a little bit of a tricky one to work with. So yeah, but it is definitely perfect for my head and my size. And right now my testers are working on it, so I'm really excited to see the versions. I know one already finished, so hopefully, in case if the other ones finish quite quickly, I can have it out in December, and if not, then January. It's what I'm expecting. So yeah, it's a finished object, and it's really nice to have a quick finished object for once and not have a really slow one. So this is the Gro Hat, and it's coming out hopefully in December or January. And it was, no, I already said what yarn it is, so I don't have to repeat myself. I've been knitting on one more project that is not a design, it's just a garment I'm making for my photography business. So I also work as a photographer, and sometimes when I photograph families, the kids are cold, especially now, so I like to have some sweaters that I can borrow them. Anyways, I'm knitting on this little brioche thing with some very voluminous sleeves. Let me try to pull them in so you can get a sense of the sleeves. And I apologize for the needles, they are quite noisy. So yeah, it's just this brioche, very soft yarn that has to be soft enough for all the kids not to complain if they want to borrow it. And this is a pattern, I can never remember her name, but I will put it below. It's a pattern, I didn't buy it on Ravelry, I found it on her website, and it's funny to knit someone else's patterns because I think it's quite healthy for me sometimes, because I get quite frustrated if I find mistakes. But sometimes I'm also like, maybe it's not a mistake, maybe I'm just tired and not following the pattern properly. But definitely found an issue in the pattern. So if you're knitting it, there is an issue at one point with the decreases at the bottom of the sweater. So I just wanted to mention that because it took me some time and a lot of tries to get it right with the numbers. But yeah, it's other than that, it's an easy enough pattern to follow once, if you're okay with brioche and you know how to do that. It's not that complicated. So that's just one thing I'm working on. And I also think I talked about it in another episode, so I'm not gonna go on too much about the yarn. It's I'm not so excited about this soft yarn as I am about the rustic yarns, and that's what I prefer to talk about on the podcast. But sometimes I knit in other yarns because of, as I said, the receivers. And yeah. So as the last thing, and as you can see on my big smile, I'm very excited to tell you something that I've been keeping a bit of a secret for a month and a half maybe. And it's also been the reason why I've been a bit more quiet on Instagram and other places, because it's been quite busy behind the scenes. And that is because we have been looking on a house since the summer, and we finally bought it. So we bought a house and we will be moving in the spring. And if you don't know, where I live right now is a rented house, and we lived here for the last 4 years. And the plan was all the time to move here, to live in the countryside, to see what we like and what we don't, and get a feel for what we would like in a house that we could buy. Also, when we moved here, I was still pregnant, and I had our baby, and we were living pretty much on one income, 1.5. So we didn't really have enough to look for a house that in the price range that we would like, where we didn't have to rebuild the whole house or something. And finally, oh, there was a bird outside my window. Finally, we managed to get in a place in life where we could look for houses seriously. And I've been looking for the last 4 years. I mean, when I say we have, but it's mainly me who's I love to look at houses and dream about houses and so on. And I have very specific ideas about how I would like our house to be. And I want to live in the countryside. I want to have a beautiful home, and I want the surroundings to be very nice, and that it also has to be a good place for kids to grow up and all that. So, if you've been ever buying a house, there are a lot of factors playing in. And so I've been looking for a long time and didn't really find anything. And then this summer, I stumbled across a message on a Facebook group from a guy who was saying, maybe we have a house for sale. He was commenting not on anything I was related to, but then I went and I saw on his Facebook profile, he had a picture of the house, and I fell in love with the house. So I wrote him and asked if we maybe could come and see it. So it was all not in the, we didn't go onto real estate pages and so on to find the house. We found it through Facebook, and we went to see the house one time, and my partner and we really liked the house, but they were not sure if they wanted to sell. They had lived there for, I don't know, 20 years, I think it was, or 30. They lived there for a long time. So they were not sure they wanted to sell. And no, it must be 30? Yeah, 30, something like that. Okay, so we were like, let's not get our hopes up, but we really like this place. And then after that, I decided to go again with my parents, because they already own an older house and they know what to look for and what not to look for, and it's nice to have more eyes on the place. Also because we didn't have any papers on it, any pictures we could go look at, any information other than that what they gave us. So I went again with my parents and we looked at the house, and I felt very strongly connected to the place. So they told us they would think about if they wanted to sell, and they finally in the fall told us they hadn't found anything else for themselves, so they were not gonna sell. So I felt a bit disappointed, but I knew that was kind of the way it was. It wasn't for sale online, so we couldn't really say anything, and I kind of put it out of my head. But I kept thinking maybe later, maybe in a year or two, they will move. And then they wrote me actually again in October and said they found a place and they were ready to put in an offer for their new place, and if we were still interested. So then we really had to move fast and talk to the bank and all this stuff, and it was a lot of work, but we got there, and they finally, with everything, it's a long process, right? If you ever bought a house, you will know it's a long process. And since we did it privately, we had to get a lawyer to help us, and they had one and all this stuff. But we managed, and now we have signed the papers and everything. We did that in November, and we are moving in April. So there's still quite a long time to go, and I haven't started packing really or anything, but we will start slowly because we have the time, so we should really use it. So it's gonna be a busy time, but also a very exciting time. And I want to tell a little bit more about the house. The house is a house built in 1940s, and they then put a whole new part on it in 2006, but they built it in the same style as the old house, so you actually don't really see that it's new, which I really love. And I think I can put a picture up here, something that I can show you. So the house is one thing, it's a very big house, so actually maybe even too big, but yeah, at least I will have a place to put my office. One of the rooms will be my office, and we'll have enough space, so that's really nice. And also it has what then drew me the most to the place, apart from it being a nice house, is the place where it's located. It's located on the top of a hill with a view over the Danish archipelago, the archipelago that's at the southern part of my island. I hope. Is that how you explain it? Yeah, I think so. So where my island is, a lot of small islands at the bottom, and this one is placed on the coast, but little up, but since it's very steep for Denmark, so the house is at, I think, 128 meters height from the sea level. That is, so you have a very beautiful view. We don't have mountains in Denmark, so this is the closest you get to a mountain, and I feel it is just crazy, the view for me to look over the place. And I will put a video so I can show you. Of course, on a phone video it doesn't look as impressive, but yeah, it's just very, very pretty. I also fell in love with the area because around the house all the land is owned by the state, so it is kept wild, more or less, and there are no farmers farming the land just around the property, which I really love, and it's a bit more wild and beautiful. There's forest nearby. We won't be living in the forest as we are now, or we live just at the edge of the forest, but we will be very close to forest. We will be closer to the sea than we are now, which is lovely. And we will have a little bit of land as well. I don't know if we will have animals at some point, maybe, but if I want to have sheep someday, we have some land with the house, and there's a big garden and so on. So the view is very, very special. And when you drive to the house, so when we drove from here to the house from this direction, you go through this very these rolling hills and this very soft landscape with forest, and then you come out, and the moment you come out where the house is, there's this, you just pop out and you have the view over the whole archipelago and the sea, and it is just amazing. And sometimes it's funny, right, how important the surroundings is for you, but I work from home, and I think it is very important for me to have this beauty around surrounding me, and it is what inspires me every day for my designs. It is what I use every day when I go to take pictures. It's just so valuable to me. It is the most valuable, and it is little bit further away from the city where my partner lives, not in distance, but there is no, here we have the highway and there we won't have the highway, so in that sense it is a bit of a price to pay. But the positive thing is that next to the house, very close to the house, there's a small village, and this is a tiny village that is a very lively village from what I know. We have been told there are folk music festivals there, and yeah, people are very not passive but active, and there's a small not private, how do I say that in English, so it's not a private school per se, it's we call it a friskole, so a free school. So it's run by, so when the old school closed down, the parents decided to take over the school, so it's not necessarily what you call a private school in Denmark, but it's a very small school, very, very tiny, and I think there are something like 90 kids there, but it just seems like the most friendly place and the most perfect place to grow up, and we are very excited that the kids are going to be able to go there, and it's closer to, we will be closer to the school than we are here. So all in all, I must say it is very exciting for me to go live there, for my family, for everyone. We are very excited. The house is in good condition, so we don't have to renovate completely. We will have to paint, and we will have to put our, mark on the place and make it our place. I'm looking so much forward to all the interior designing, and because when we lived here, the 4 years we lived here, I haven't really felt like we could make the place ours. Okay, it's told me that I had reached the maximum recording time, but I was just talking about when you live in a rented place that you don't really get to make the place your own in the way it didn't get to paint. I always felt like it was temporary, even if we lived here for 4 years, it was temporary. And for example, behind me here we have the garden out that way, and there's no door to get into the garden. And if it was our place, we would have put in a door or something, like a French door or terrace door, but we cannot make these changes here because it's not our place. So I just look so much forward to all the changes we can make and make it our own and make it beautiful. Of course, it will be a long process. Yeah, and I have to decide on what room will be my office and all these things. There are so many exciting things. I know it will take some time, and I will also be very busy. I've been playing a bit with the idea of maybe I should record some of it and make some moving, getting ready in there, in the house, interior designing. I don't know if you would be interested in seeing any of that and if I can even manage to record it, but it would be fun for me. So, and a lot of my time and energy will be put into that for the next many months. So we will be moving in April and finally moving out of this place in May. And the kids will start the new school in May. So it will be very exciting. Of course, I'm also a little bit sad leaving this place because we had our second child here. We have had some very good years here. But as I said, it's just always been a place that was never fully ours. And now the plan is that this place will be where we stay for the next as many years as we can, until we're old and the place is too big for us or something. But I think that's very good for me to know. I want my children to have a home that will be their childhood home, and like I always lived in the same place my whole childhood, so I think that's very important to me. But now they are a bit older. My daughter is 7 and my son is gonna be 4, but I still think it's within the age where they're not too connected to where we live now, I hope. So this was the big news, and I've been dying to tell you all about it. I feel I wanted to make a podcast to talk about it and to explain it properly, and not that it's not explain it or to talk about it properly, let's say, but it's just something that has been taking a lot of space in my head, also because we didn't know if we were gonna get it, and then we finally got it, and yeah, it's been exciting, but also not very stressful because we were the only ones looking at the house at that time. So in that sense, I know it could probably have been worse if we found it online and other people were interested in bidding on the house. But yeah, I can't wait to show you more. I always try to stay a little bit private with where we live and so on, but I will still be living on this island on Fyn, and it will still be on the southern part. So but just a little it's like half an hour away from where we live right now, so it is a change, but not the biggest change. And yeah, I think I talked about everything, and maybe you have already left the conversation, but if you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you for always leaving nice comments. I read them all. I always give them a heart, and I try to answer the comments when I have time, but I prefer spending my time making another podcast or making something creative. So I'm talking to you and I feel you talk back in the comments, but it's not always I can keep the conversation going, and I hope you understand. But I really do appreciate all comments. And yeah, you can always find me over on Instagram, and I am Favorite Tales there. And you can find all information I've been talking about in the show notes. I look forward to seeing you all next time. I don't know when that will be. It's been very hard finding a day, and it's probably still too gray today to really get a good light, but hopefully I can manage some more in the winter. The only problem for me is I don't have much knitting to show, and hopefully I have some more knitting time during the winter. But today at least I had some new yarn and a new finished object. That's also something, I think. So take care and have a lovely holiday if I don't talk to you before. Bye!